Earlier, we learnt that the temperature of the air is important in determining the size of the supercooled water droplets that could be produced within clouds. Let's now look at the factors that can determine the severity of icing. The first of these factors is the cloud type and the vertical support that the various types of cloud offer to water droplets. Cumuliform clouds frequently have strong vertical updrafts of air moving within them. They can therefore support significant numbers of large supercooled water droplets. As a result, a pilot can expect moderate or even severe clear ice within these clouds, especially in flight just above the 0-degree level. In cumulonimbus clouds, the updrafts are even greater, and so the icing risk is always severe. If icing is encountered within cumuliform clouds, climbing within the cloud to find the colder air where icing may be less may not actually decrease the risk. Ice may still accumulate even though it is only the small supercooled water droplets as opposed to large droplets. The most reliable action to eliminate the danger is to descend to an altitude below the 0-degree level if possible, and plot the shortest course through the cloud using radar if equipped. Ensure you maintain clearance of terrain, but be careful when descending below convective cells because of other inherent dangers. The best course of action is to avoid flying through them altogether, not just because you are eliminating the icing risk, but because they are hazardous for many other reasons. There is another factor about convective cloud which can significantly alter the severity of icing. This is the cloud base temperature. Looking at the two examples of convective cloud, the diagram on the right has a higher base temperature than the cloud on the left. Because the air is warmer, there will be greater amounts of water vapour, and hence water droplets, present at the base of the cloud. Updrafts distribute these droplets evenly throughout the cloud. It is now plain to see that the cloud on the right has a greater proportion of supercooled water droplets than the cloud on the left. In the tropics, we tend to find greater icing risks in convective cloud because of this phenomenon. This effect can be seen in the summer months in temperate latitudes, as the convective cloud bases tend to be warmer than in winter. In layered cloud, the icing risk is usually much lower because of the lack of vertical support for the cloud and water droplets. Even if the temperatures were suitable for the formation of large supercooled water droplets, the cloud has little capability to support them, and even less capability of supporting large quantities of them. As a result, we can generally expect only light to moderate icing, and typically only rime ice. The cloud that is an exception to this is nimbostratus. It can have the vertical support for the large droplets, and the icing risk could be moderate or even severe. However, be very wary whenever cloud is found within the proximity of hills. The terrain will provide additional support to the cloud, and can massively increase the amount of the supercooled droplets present. If this is the case, expect the stratiform clouds to have a far greater icing risk. There is another effect that high ground can have on the icing risk. In stable air, hills can actually lower the height of the 0-degree level, especially when there is snow cover. In the diagram, we can see that around the high ground, the 0-degree level is a little lower. Pilots, when approaching hills, might believe that they are below the 0-degree level and have little risk of icing. However, as an aircraft gets closer to a hill, the temperature falls, and now the aircraft is located in the most dangerous place, the area where large supercooled droplets can be found. Given additional orographic support, the icing risk could be severe. Be extra cautious approaching hills or mountains in cloud, and monitor the signs of icing regularly. Activate the anti-icing, and be prepared to divert or circumnavigate the area if necessary. If icing is found within stratiform cloud, it is probably advisable to climb into the much colder air above, where the icing risk is reduced a little. Also note that since layer cloud has little vertical extent, you may be able to climb above the cloud altogether. Climbing to reduce the icing risk is the most obvious course of action when flying into icing conditions formed along a warm front. Shown here, it is easy to see the warmer air above the aircraft, and since the air is above 0 degrees at that level, icing will stop and eventually disappear. There is one last factor to consider: the shape of the aerofoil. Shown here are two wings, one thin and the other thick. The flow of air over a thick wing separates earlier, and supercooled water droplets are less likely to contact the wing and then freeze. Also, thick wings have a much better camber and produce the same lift as thin wings, but at lower speed. This means that the frequency of contact is reduced and the rate of accumulation less. As a result, thin wings tend to create a greater icing risk than thick wings. Lastly, it is important to be able to know how to classify icing severity. Using the table shown here should give you a better idea of what type of icing you are encountering. Please note that it is the responsibility of the pilot to accurately inform either air traffic control or the nearest meteorological office any time moderate or severe icing is experienced in flight. This completes the lesson on icing. There are some very important issues a pilot must be aware of. Icing is dangerous, and being an informed and educated pilot is the best way to eliminate the danger. Most of all, expect icing in cloud whenever flying above the freezing level. Stay well clear of convective clouds, especially when flying just above the freezing level. Be especially cautious of high ground, intensifying the icing risks. Be careful when using the de-icing or anti-icing equipment. Ensure you know how these systems work and how best to use them properly. Treat total air temperature probes with caution, since they may not reliably indicate the exact outside temperature. Lastly, examine the forecasts in detail before you fly.